most of you are in one way sad about this being an end, and others are thinking, what the hell was this CD? It's one of those songs that even if it is really emotional, you want to listen to it more. By no means it's not bad, but it is a bit underwhelming in comparison with everything he had been doing up until now. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Monthly Review. It's time to talk about the releases from June 2024. I know it's been a while, but we need to talk about those. Let's check them out. First off, we have Makoto Furukawa with Kaleidoscope. Now, I was expecting a lot coming from Makoto Furukawa with Kaleidoscope, especially because Atlantis was claiming this is going to basically be a concept series of, or let's say a concept collection of songs, more a concept collection of songs by Makoto Furukawa under the theme of the Four Seasons. Seeing as we already had the Four Seasons in some way by Soma Saito and Junta Terashima, I was expecting something a bit different. What we got with Makoto Furukawa's Kaleidoscope is not necessarily something bad, but I feel that it was uninspired. It's nothing alike what Makoto Furukawa was doing up until now. This is for sure, because the sound is softer, and even if there is rock in there, mind you, I reviewed the version which is basically the regular one with Kaleidoscope and Margaret no Chimoku. These are the spring and winter songs, so they are the polar opposites to each other. And it's a pity I didn't get to review the summer and autumn songs, especially because those are my two favorite seasons of the year. But since I got the regular edition, this is what I got. And what we got in here is something a bit different from what Makoto Furukawa usually does. Not to say that this is bad, by no means it's not bad, but it is a bit underwhelming in comparison with everything he had been doing up until now. Up until now, Makoto Furukawa had been doing a really interesting, fancy brand of jazz and rock. And what we get in this single, in a way, is a softer, sweeter type of pop with the title track. And in this case, with Margaret no Chimoku, we get a sort of a pop rock, almost indie rock style of song. This works within the single, but still, when I look back to all the music that Makoto Furukawa has released so far, it sounds a bit underwhelming, especially if you compare it. As a single, as it is good. It is really interesting to listen to. It's not necessarily a bad single, but I feel that as a turn of a chapter, as Makoto Furukawa was saying, it is too subtle, too quiet, too simple, I feel, to what I was expecting. I was expecting something a bit more showy, something a bit more, I would say, not as softer as this was. If it was to do something really different, it should have done something really, really different. This is not that big of a leap between what he was doing, but still it is different from what he was doing. So in a way, as a big fan of his, I'm kind of surprised that he went this route for this single. But then again, it makes sense. A softer, sweeter sound makes sense for spring, because it is the time to rebirth, to start things again, to end things, to meet new people, and everything else. So it makes sense that the sound is softer, because things are blooming. And then we have a sort of slower, simpler, rawer style of rock with Margaret no Chimoku. This song works really well as it is. I found the mixing on the vocals to be weird, but that's really personal opinion in that case, because most of you will listen to that song and don't feel that the vocals mix is that wrong or that weird. I feel that the vocals are too dry for my taste. It's missing something in the dynamics. It's as if it was in a really soundproofed room and no one was trying or making an effort to add a little bit of echo, adding a little bit of dynamic as if he was speaking, or in this case singing to someone, to a venue, to in a space, a wide space, instead of something more closed. So I felt that it was a bit dry in terms of the mixing of the vocals, but besides that, it is a really good song. As a whole, Kaleidoscope is not impressive. It's a good single, but far from impressive, especially if we compare it with Place Your Bets, which was the previous one. So the shock between both is a big one, really. Still, if Makoto Furukawa wanted to really turn a leaf in his career as a solo artist, and he opted to do something with the seasons, I feel like Kaleidoscope, especially representing spring, was not necessarily the best song to do that turn. It sounds too soft, too regular, too mainstream as a pop tune. It doesn't add anything new per se to Makoto Furukawa's career. So I'm a bit underwhelmed by it. I was expecting much more, especially because he's one of my favorite artists. But I hope that this is a slow start to a new beginning, or a new chapter, that Makoto Furukawa actually confirmed it is a new chapter. But I'm hoping that the next single or album explores completely different things, or things in a broader, more intense, more passionate way, because these felt too tame for my taste, and especially in comparison with what he was doing up until now, which was really filled with emotion, power, and it was exciting. And right now the single felt that it lacked everything about his music. So that's my take on Makoto Furukawa's Kaleidoscope. I was expecting much more from that. Then, and this was not the best CD released in June 2024, it is Louloudi's Choose.
曇り空と道の影の似た足跡選べないまま踊り続けてた規則の底 Think I begin the dance first sight Awaken from the darkest night 僕を呼ぶ声が聞こえる What is there above the sky If I fly to thine oh why 苦しい時も生きていく意味
Now, I know that most of you are in one way sad about these being an end, and others are thinking, what the hell was this CD? I fit in the category of what the hell was this CD? Because it's weird. But let me get something clear, because Amagiri Production was not clear about what was the future for Loulou. They were saying that this is the end, this is the final chapter. However, a couple of days later, they released a press release saying that the group was going to halt their activities temporarily, which is a completely different story. So the group is not ending. They are not stopping altogether from releasing music. They are just making a pause. They are on a hiatus. So Amagiri Production was in some way being overly dramatic and raising the stakes so high that when people came across Choose, they were completely underwhelmed. I feel that this is the general feeling about this CD, is that in comparison with Deja Vu, with Nothing, or with Arc, it sounds completely underwhelming. And I was not expecting to say this word about their music, but yet, here we are. So it is underwhelming, choose. It's not necessarily a good entry by this amazing trio. But then again, before Amagiri Production confirmed that it was a temporary halt to the activities, it felt weird. But as soon as they confirmed, it made sense. So the CD doesn't feel like a goodbye at all. When I was listening to it, I felt that this is not a goodbye, this is a see you later, albeit a weird see you later, with a lot of bittersweetness in there. So it is because the group actually is not saying that they are going to go away forever. They are saying that they will meet us in the Eden, which is to say in paradise. So we will meet again. That's the general message that we get with this CD. So why all that drama by Amagiri Production saying that this was the final entry? I don't know, but the backlash from the fans actually made them come forward and clarify the situation, because it's not the end, they are just making a pause. So it's good news in a way, because I'm a big fan of louloudi, so I hope they continue to release music in the future. And in another way, I feel that this would have been an awful way to wrap up the story for this group, because this CD doesn't sound final at all. The music is nothing like what they have been doing so far. It sounds uninspired in the composition, and the vocal performances are pop style instead of a lyrical style. They lack emotion, they are a bit numb throughout the performances, which is weird. It may be intentional, but especially listening to everything of theirs, because I was preparing myself for the end when I was going to listen to the CD, so I went through all their songs chronologically to prepare myself to say goodbye. But as soon as I started to listen to the CD, it didn't feel like a goodbye, it felt more like an intermission to lead to something else. And actually it was soon after confirmed by Amagiri Production that they may return. They are just in a temporary hiatus. So this is a weird CD. Doesn't match the quality standards that louloudi has delivered so far, which is yet again something that I was not expecting. The songs are more EDM driven than ever before, especially if you look back and we have orchestras playing with louloudi in previous songs, and we have full ensembles playing amazing orchestral, over-the-top, emotional instrumentals, and then the group delivering some of the most technical performances ever, and then we get to choose, and it's a lackluster set of songs, with Bioagent, the intro, being the only song that I actually enjoyed in this CD and that I actually had on repeat. It's weird for me to say this because I love this group, and it's even more frustrating because I purchased the CD and I'm not satisfied with it. But then again, it is something inevitable because we didn't know what was going on, and this was an abrupt announcement to an end to a group that actually is amazing. I can understand from story-wise because the story was reaching a climax, but it doesn't make any sense the group that debuted later in the Hanadol franchise to actually wrap up their activities sooner than Anthos. It's weird, so it wasn't making any sense to me. So now it makes a bit of sense, at least. So if you were worried about louloudi ending, it seems they are not ending, and you may see these on screen right now because they have an official announcement, so you have that translation going on now. So yeah, I was not impressed with this CD. Bioagent is actually the best song in this entry. It is an intro, for the very first time, an intro which is sang by Toshiki Toyonaga alone. And of course, story-wise, this makes sense. I went through the wikis and I really dove into the story a little bit. And I now understand the messed up things that are going on behind for louloudi and how their weird dynamics work and what is happening to Ageha, Toshiki Toyonaga's character. So that's why they have such a fatalistic style of songs and a really, really sad style of performance up until now. Lyrical, emotional. It now makes a lot of sense to me. But still, it was good to see and do my reviews or make my reviews or write my reviews about the CDs by louloudi without knowing the story behind. Now that I know a little bit, because I had to try to understand what was happening here and why we were getting an ending, and now I understand how messed up the story is. So yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Above the Sky because the song takes too long to wrap up that build-up, that EDM build-up, then goes to a chorus in which there are no vocals whatsoever. The electronica is a bit too much for a group that was not using electronica as much. There's no crazy technique going on the vocal end, and orchestral elements are kept to a bare minimum, if any. So it is not necessarily a good song for me, or at least to me. And then we get to Dream Eden, and the song feels more like we are rounding up at a bonfire and we are basically recapping the story. What happened so far? Where have we been? Where are we going next in the story? And it feels more like a recap than a goodbye. And it makes now a lot of sense because it's not a goodbye, it's a see you later. But for those listening to this when the CD released, it was odd because the song doesn't sound like an ending. So we didn't know, and of course it was not clear that it was an ending at all. I wrote in the review, and I'm not checking because I don't want to mess up the names of the songs, but I wrote in the review that Dying Matter and Abortive Flower were better songs to basically end a CD series or end the group. They sound more fatalistic, they sound more final, and in this case Dream Eden was not an ending song. It is a see you later. And this see you later is quite bittersweet, which is expected from, especially from louloudi, and then from the fact that we are saying temporarily a goodbye to the group. The group is addressing us directly, saying that we may say hello again in their Eden. So they have found in some way an Eden, and we will meet them again. So that's a good, I should say, it's a good indication that they are going to come back. So it is a more acoustic type of sound, which is yet again something they haven't done that much, in which acoustic guitars are really, really strong, and you still have that bit of a dissonance going on because of the synths. They are playing on your right and then in the background, and they sound weird. They have that lingering dread going on in them, which hints at something darker, something that is in some way diluting in the background after everything that happened, but in some way maybe carrying over to a different CD series, to the next chapter. So this is quite the weird CD. I'm not satisfied in any way with this CD, but it is good to see that this is not the end, because if this was the end, this was going to be quite easily one of the worst ways to end a CD series, because it didn't sound final. It was not really using the group's strengths on the vocal end. Hamatakeshi actually sounds uninspired in his compositions, but now it all makes sense. It's a pause, and since the press release was saying that the group was tired, it matches how numb the CD feels. but now it all makes sense because of that. So it is a kind of an CD. Not much is happening, although a lot is happening at the same time, and the sound is a bit different from usual. It's not really my thing, and honestly I was expecting much more from louloudi, but then again, now things are making sense. We now just need to wait until the next chapter, and hopefully it's a good one. So we will have to wait. It's better than saying goodbye forever to a group that is amazing, has redefined what is a good 2D music project and what is a good 2D group. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they can deliver next, seeing as we have 3 amazing singers in this group. We have one of the best composers in 2D music here, so it was weird to say goodbye, but thankfully it's not a goodbye. So we will be seeing more of louloudi hopefully next year. I'm hoping at least next year they will be back. So this is my take on louloudi's Choose, a CD that actually, if I had to, I wouldn't choose at all. It's too bittersweet, too weird, too different. Doesn't sound like louloudi at all. And the best release of the month is HOUND ROAR's Fragile.
移りゆく憂いの風朝焼けを待ち歌方と散る形のない夢に寄り添い震えるように叫んでいたして無邪気さに憧れうずめていた指が踊る
So I was quite excited to this release because I love HOUND ROAR and I love Toshiki Toyonaga, and this month felt a bit lackluster with Makoto Furukawa actually missing the mark with Kaleidoscope, and louloudi actually doing something really weird with Choose. So I was craving quality music that would put a smile on my face and actually satisfy me completely. And HOUND ROAR delivered that with Fragile. Especially because I was missing strings in louloudi's music. Those strings carried over to HOUND ROAR's Fragile, and in some way their acid jazz sound actually increased a lot its quality with strings alongside. They have a really groovy sound, loungy at times, and with the strings we had a little bit of drama in there, leading to what is one of the best, if not the best performance by HOUND ROAR up until now, one of the most beautiful songs in the Dig Rock franchise, and by far one of the best songs released so far in 2024. It is emotional, it is beautiful, it is really delicate, really fragile, really like the title, and it is really one of those songs that you want to listen to more and more and more. It makes sense, and in this case, what they deliver in here is something that I was craving a lot, and they managed to actually go the extra mile and bring those strings in there, crank up the bass, make the guitar solo really emotional, make the song really alive, but without having that grooviness, danceable grooviness that the group has up until now. This is a kind of a more introspective style of song, and I do appreciate when the band tries to do something a bit different. In this case, bringing a bit more of an introspective style of performance was unexpected, but it fits them so well. At the same time, of course, you have Toshiki Toyonaga on vocals. You are going to expect something really big, something really good, and what he delivers is actually a fantastic performance that had me wanting more and more and more, and hopefully sometime soon we get a full-length album by HOUND ROAR in some way, because I feel that this is something that is missing in this franchise, the Dig Rock franchise. They don't release full-length albums that are fully original, or at least half of it original. I would love to have a full-length album by them. And in some way, Fragile only heightened that excitement and that anticipation that I have for a potential full-length album. Although I do feel that this franchise will never bet on the full-length album in which half of the songs are new. One can dream. In this case, HOUND ROAR's Fragile was definitely the highlight in June 2024. By far, really by far, the whole vibe is something that you want to really immerse yourself in, and the delivery was unbelievably good. It's one of those songs that even if it is really emotional, you want to listen to it more. And that's a good sign. It's a sign that it is a quality song, it's a sign that the performance clicks with you, and this is a genuinely beautiful song. While the group was releasing up until now groovy types of songs, this completely disrupts that but brings a layer of emotion and of depth to their music. And this is, for me, something truly valuable to them, because it shows a completely different side to them as a group or a band, and it shows that they have an even stronger emotional side to them that they can bring forth whenever they want to. They are not just groovy, just a really fun acid jazz band. They have more to them, and this is what they have. Fragile is unbelievably good, and if you haven't checked it, you need to. It's really worth your time and your money. Once again, the music from the Dig Rock franchise is not available on streaming platforms when it drops, basically, so you will have to wait almost a year until the music is available on streaming platforms. So my suggestion is to go to Ototoy and get that song in digital version officially and support directly the project and the band. Otherwise, you will have to wait almost a year to get the song, which I feel will be quite frustrating. But yeah, this was the best song in June 2024. Now it's time to see what you have to say about your favorites. In this case, ML, welcome to the show. ML says, Tsukitachi no Memoria, the ending song from the recent Tsukuta movie. It's so beautiful, emotional and hopeful that I would probably have cried if I watched the movie. And the instrumental could easily be a growth song, with the choir and the orchestral instruments, which is a win for me. But the best thing is the panning of the vocals. For example, you have all 12 vocals at the same time in the chorus, but then one of them slowly emerges from the corner. In the verses, you have them singing in pairs, with a voice in each side, and many more awesome things. Now, this is how you keep a song interesting with so many voices. Quick note, because I didn't have the chance to talk about the movie's opening song, Rabbit's Kingdom Versus, when it released. It's also awesome. Orchestral too, but in the dramatic side. Also, it's over 6 minutes and a half, which is pretty impressive. So, ML, you bring Tsukuta to the spotlight, and in this case, it is the songs related to the recent Tsukuta movie. I haven't watched the Tsukuta movie, I haven't listened to the songs, so this is all new to me, and I feel that I didn't even cover these on the website, because I didn't have the time, and then I forgot, and then the movie was out. So it's basically this. So you are saying that the panning of the voices is really well done. This is something that I fully appreciate when franchises, and especially when mixing engineers grab a song by a group with too many people, and they make it so that you can listen to everyone clearly within the mix. That no one is actually murking itself and actually blending in a way that everyone sounds like one, instead of having everyone being clear at all times. There are very few groups and very few franchises that do that really well, of having the panning well done, and then the clarity in the mixing to have all the voices noticeable at all times. So it's really good to see that in this case Movik is focusing here on making sure that the voices have an interesting panning and that things are happening that change the dynamic to a song. So you are saying that sometimes you have two voices at the same time and one is in each ear, and in another way everyone is singing, and then someone leaps forth and takes the stage and leads the way. It's good to mix and match that type of dynamic on the vocal end, otherwise the songs end up being too formulaic, they end being too boring. And usually 2D music franchises, when they create these types of ensemble songs in which everyone in the franchise is singing at the same time, it gets messed up. Basically, it gets messed up, it gets really weird, and sometimes it's not really that good. So I like when we have that type of clarity, and as you said, you have that clarity and you have that dynamic, that shift in dynamics that keeps basically things interesting for the listener. Especially when you are listening to a song with so many people at the same time, it ends up being a bit boring after the first chorus, because you know that the second chorus everyone is going to be singing in unison. You basically won't notice who is leading the way because every single voice is merging into one. And in this case, the focus is more on panning things and ensuring that everyone has their spotlight basically throughout the song, and keeps things interesting even for the listener. So this is good to see, this is good to find. At the same time, I'm quite interested about the fact that you were saying that the opening song is orchestral in the style of maybe Growth. This is quite interesting. I'm curious to see what actually emerges from here, because I wouldn't usually associate orchestral music with the THTFHQ franchise, because they are more of an EDM style of project, even if they mix a lot of music genres in there, but they are primarily about pop and EDM. So I was not expecting the idea of having two songs that feel like they are from Growth, and especially one of those feels really or is actually orchestral and quite dramatic, which is two things that I wouldn't associate usually with the THTFHQ franchise. So this is good to see that there is a shift in here in terms of tone, but then again, the type of movie that it is, it actually makes sense for these to be dramatic and in some way orchestral and grandiose in its delivery. So you've piqued my interest with especially the panning, because I need to see and hear good panning and interesting things going on in the mix. I feel that the 2D music that we have right now, there are very few groups that actually achieve that thing of not being boring in the chorus and putting everyone singing at the same time in complete unison, which is boring. And doesn't favor anyone beyond the fact that it is used to mask seiyuu that don't sing well, basically. So to have panning like these and doing interesting things on the mixing is something that really piques my interest. And of course, the orchestral side to their music is something that I was not expecting anyone to say, and especially to associate with this franchise. So I will be checking that out. So thank you very much, ML, for sending in your opinion about the best CDs released or the best songs released in June 2024. Since this is the only participation this month, let's go to the next corner. And it's time for monthly choice. And oh boy, I bring you Brave Child's Himitsu.
うまく手を重ねて歩けない夜なんだ危機感なんて今決して分かり合いたいだけさ僕は冷めていくよ胸はマグマのようにかき回されグツグツして溢れ出して止められないよ愛し合った世界解像度下がってぼやけなぜか君と僕は
This is one of those songs that honestly, for me, it's the best, alongside HOUND ROAR's Fragile, is the best song or CD released in June 2024, hands down. But I had to talk about Makoto Furukawa's Kaleidoscope, and I had to talk about Louloudi's Choose. That's why I didn't bring Brave Child's Himitsu to the list of the best songs or the best releases of June 2024. But for the record, it is actually the second best release in the month, and I wanted time to talk about it, and I didn't want to crowd the first section, so we are going to talk about it in here. Himitsu is unbelievably good. This is something that I was not expecting to say. Let's say like this. I love Brave Child's music, I love Joshua, and I love Nobunaga Shimazaki's vocals. This is all a given. But I was not expecting, especially in a franchise in which there are many other bands that sound even better than Brave Child, I wasn't expecting to say, after listening to 3 CDs, which I'm not going to talk about the third CD I listened to, which is Kagaribi, because we are going to talk about it in the next episode. But after listening to 3 CDs in this CD series, I feel that Brave Child so far is the best one. So far. And let me tell you, I'm a massive fan of Judah and Kagaribi, and I don't have the same feelings about it as I do about Himitsu by Brave Child. So this is a really groovy, fun, entertaining, romantic, loving, and really sexy CD, which was basically things that I was not expecting to say about Brave Child's music, and yet here we are. So I'm really excited about people finding this CD and falling in love with it. It's one of those songs, especially the title track, it's one of those songs that you need to listen to. I noticed that I was reviewing a batch of CDs, and I felt that, yeah, now that I'm wrapping up the review of Brave Child's Himitsu, I need to do a palette cleanser and listen to something different so that I can prepare for the next CD. I didn't do that, I just had Himitsu playing in the background, looping, as I was writing the final considerations in the review, so I was really excited about it. I really love the song a whole lot. That's one of the biggest bass lines in there. It's so groovy, it's so fun, it's oddly sexy, which is something that I was not expecting from Joshua, but then again, the stories are progressing and the characters are opening more and falling in love, or openly saying that they are in love with their significant others. In this case, if you are listening to the drama CDs, it is with you, and this is really the type of thing that I love, to see this growth happening. Joshua, up until now, was an artist within the Dear Vocalist franchise. It was all about pop and pop rock and in some way ballads. And his music was really focused on the ballads specifically. So this time around we do not have ballads. We have 2 really groovy songs. And Himitsu is so sexy. You have listened to the preview. Although it doesn't make justice to how good the song is as a whole, but you got the gist of how good it is. I do hope that you guys actually come across this song and at least find it on Autotoy and purchase it, because this song is unbelievably good. And Nobunaga Shimazaki once again impresses me with his performances. I've said this before, people underestimate how good he is as a singer. He may not be out there with Toshiki Toyonaga, Soma Saito, Yumu Uchida, and Makoto Furukawa, for example. They are top tier singers with really massive skill sets and really well trained skill sets. But Nobunaga Shimazaki is really amazing at what he does, and he does have something that some singers, even some of the singers I mentioned, may lack a little bit, which is his emotional delivery. He always knows how to deliver the emotions in the song in a way that instantly connects with you. This is something that he carries over from his work as a voice actor, because he's really good with drama style of anime. And he does really well when it brings drama as well to the performances. And in this case we have drama, a lot of love, care, allure in some way, attraction, and he really picked those emotions all up and brought those forth with the performance that really embodies those and fleshes those out in a way that you can feel them in every single note, in every single word. It is really unbelievably good how he does that. And Nobunaga Shimazaki is really a stable, consistent singer, really powerful, something that may lack in some of the singers, for example, within the Dear Vocalist franchise, is really powerful throughout. These emotions never waver, is really consistent in his delivery. This is a sign of high quality as a performer, and I love him a whole lot because of that. I enjoy his voice a whole lot as well, so I may be a bit biased when it comes to his tone of voice, because I do enjoy his tone of voice a whole lot. But when it comes to delivering really good performances, he delivers, and this is not my bias talking, this is really an observation from a professional standpoint. He's a really good singer, and he does the job really well as Joshua. In this case, Himitsu and Kaze Hikaru are two really awesome songs. One of those is really groovy and the other is really jaunty, which is to say, both are quite danceable and warm. And I do enjoy this a whole lot. In a CD that I was expecting to have a lot of ballads or a slower tempo, more introspective one, but it was actually a really fun CD. This is the best entry in the Dear Vocalist franchise this year for the Headliner CD series, which already says a lot. And in this episode I'm going to bring just another song instead of two songs. And I'm going to bring here Cosmes with Ain't No Love.
名もなきスラム街に生まれ俺ら親父の顔も知らねえいつも二人腹を空かせて散らかった部屋で過ごしてた everyday 体を売る18のまま生きるにはそうするしかなかった男が来りゃ邪魔者扱い部屋を追い出す代わりくれた小遣い Ain't no love いくら探しても愛なんてないコロコロ変わるままのボーイフレンドまた街へ出てく俺らを置いて出口の見えないあの生活二人で分け合うカップ麺が贅沢俺らを産まなけりゃよかったそう言ってママはまた泣いていた生まれ育った街に No love 永遠の愛って何の冗談俺らが信じるのは No one 力ずくで奪い取るあの王冠 Ain't no love
Now, I do love hip-hop a whole lot, although I don't talk about hip-hop here on the channel that much, which is weird, but then again, I have been so far behind covering both the Paradox Live franchise and the Hypnosis Mic franchise that I haven't talked about hip-hop at all, although I want to talk about it, because I love hip-hop. In this case, I went back in time to cover Ain't No Love. It is the first time that I mentioned this song here, I believe so. And this is a song that instantly clicked with me because I like this type of introspective hip-hop tunes covering a story or telling a story from start to finish, and especially a personal story to the characters that are relaying it to you. I love a whole lot how the storytelling is made for Cosmes in the Paradox Live franchise. They are my favorite team in the franchise, by far. And of course I do love the Cat's Whiskers, they are my second favorite. And I do love the duo of Yusuke Kobayashi and Toshiki Toyonaga. They fit really well. Their voices complement each other in such an amazing way. They almost sound identical at times. And I do love Ain't No Love a lot. This is the type of song that when I listened to the first time I was not expecting it to be so raw and so emotional and so direct. And especially the language itself, it was basically the very first song to actually get a parental advisory announcement when it comes to a 2D music project with hip-hop at its core. So the lyrics are raw, crude at times. We are talking about several themes that may be a bit sensitive. We are talking about prostitution, we are talking about basically being an orphan in some way. We are talking about, in some way, sex. We are talking about a lot of things going on in here, and those themes are not usually approached that openly when it comes to the music, because we need to have a proper sound, and the projects don't want to steer people the wrong way, and they want to be proper and prim at all times. But in this case, Cosmes went the extra mile and showed, well, we are going to deliver, and this is something that I appreciate a whole lot about the Paradox franchise, is that they are going to deliver a true hip-hop experience. Hip-hop is not flowers and happy-go-lucky type of music, or really clean lyrics. Most of the times the lyrics are not clean. We are going to have profanity in there. We are going to have swear words in there. We are going to have cruder things. We are going to be more explicit in the way we are talking, even if it is social style of rap, interventional style of rap, or even introspective style of rap. So we need, and in some way it is intrinsic to hip-hop music, to be that openly raw. And it makes sense. It is something that comes from the heart. It is a music genre that is really, really close to the MCs and the rappers in question. So I feel that this is one of those songs that when I listened for the first time, I felt that, yeah, this is the true rap experience. And in this case, Cosmes went all in and was like, well, whatever, go to hell, let's do this, and let's show a really raw emotional side, and let's not spare words. And this is really unbelievably good. This is still one of the rap songs that I usually get chills whenever I press play, and I listen to this song quite a lot. I usually go on a shuffle of Paradox Live songs with some frequency, knowing that still I haven't listened to many of those because I've missed a lot in the previous CD series. I haven't reviewed everything. I aim to review everything, so do not worry, I will be eventually reaching those CDs and reviewing those. But so far I wanted to talk about Ain't No Love. This is a song that I love a lot. Props as well to Yusuke Kobayashi, because I love his English pronunciation. He's clean, he's raw, he's aggressive, he's really, really powerful. Of course, he's from London, although he says that his English is not that good. His English is still good, and he sounds really well in there. So yeah, unbelievable performance in which Yusuke Kobayashi and Toshiki Toyonaga really go raw, emotional, and they are two amazing singers, in this case rappers, that can deliver such an amazing performance. So I was flabbergasted when I listened to that song for the very first time, and still to this day I love this song, and I still can't believe that they went that route with their song. This is a true rap performance, and there's nothing like it so far in any other 2D music project, or even within the Paradox Live franchise. So yeah, this was my pick, and the second pick out of 2 this month, because I'm not going to extend myself too much, because this episode is arriving 2 months later. So yeah, this was my second and last pick for the monthly choice corner. So now let's check your choices. Which CDs we have here? ML as well. ML says, after Bungee Gum's comment last month, I was curious about the Rhapsody project. I listened to the album and it's too good, so apologies for the incoming text walls. I'm seeing the text wall. ML, it's good to see that you actually had a lot of fun with that CD. So ML says, okay, where do I start? 17 songs, mostly rock, but also some EDM, and 4 vocalists voiced by rookie seiyuu. They also brought international composers for all the songs, which is interesting. Pink Flag is my favorite group, a rock band with that kind of emotional and inspiring sound. Their song Lost was love at first listen. The intro feels like in a movie where the main characters would be preparing for a big moment. And that moment is the chorus, with really powerful vocals that will make you want to shout along. I also feel the need to mention their first song, Dainsho, just for the high notes at the end of the chorus. So good. I also quite like System of Romance, a pair of DJ and a vocalist. While I'm not a fan of the auto-tune of the first two songs, I really like the others. With Sambyaku Rokuju Do being a really intense but not overwhelming electric rock song, and Blue Ascension being pure EDM but with amazing vocals. There's also another band with a sound that reminds me of Blast from Bandia Rose, and a group of two guitarists and a keyboardist that perform acoustic or semi-acoustic rock. I would talk more about them, but I think I already typed too much. So the last thing I want to say is the project's YouTube channel is Rhapsody Official. I thought it was important to say because the name of the project and even the album, Rhapsody the album, are quite unfortunate, and Google would give you results about Bohemian Rhapsody. Yeah, I feel that the name of the project was not necessarily well chosen, and sometimes you need to do a really interesting marketing research before you choose a name for the project to avoid it actually clashing with a famous group or a famous song. And in this case, Rhapsody was not really the best thing to bring as a name for this project, but then at the same time I can understand the feelings that they wanted to showcase with the theme being Rhapsody. So you have a lot of quality going on in that project. There was a big reason why I didn't pick that project up, is because when I found it, it was already ending. So I didn't found it when it was actually in its beginnings, and I actually missed the boat in that project. At the same time, we have vocals that I have never heard before, although I do know that Hiromu Mineta is in there and is actually a really powerful singer. I do enjoy him a whole lot. Out of the new generation, is actually one of the most interesting voices that there is out there. But I haven't checked the music in this franchise at all. Once again, as Bungie Gum said in the last episode, and now as you said, ML, there's a lot of quality in this project. I don't understand why the project ended so early, but then again, it may have been because of the sales, it may have been because of the reception. But it is unfortunate when you look at projects that have ended in the past couple of years, and most of those are rock projects, which is a pity. Then again, it is good that the music is still available, and I will be linking to the YouTube channel of Rhapsody project in the comments as well as in the description, because they are really worth your time. You need to check those. You have quality in there when it comes to the new singers or the new generation of singers. Once again, Hiromu Mineta is a really awesome singer. Out of the rookies in that project, he is my favorite. So it is well worth checking out, although I didn't dove into their music, but I have followed the last stages in the franchise until its impending end early this year. So yeah, I fully recommend you guys to check Rhapsody project. You already had Bungie Gum in the last episode saying please check it, and now you have ML confirming that it is worth checking out, so do go ahead and check them out. As you noticed, there is rock, there is EDM in there, there is acoustic pop rock, you have a little bit of everything, so it is well worth checking out with a more accessible sound than many other projects and many other groups out there have. So they may be, or this project may be the peak or the one that you need to check out, so do not miss it. So thank you very much, ML, for sending this suggestion. This episode is sponsored by all the THTFHQ's patrons on Patreon. A big thank you for the support. Now it's time for Music in the Horizon, and this time around I'm going to go through my picks really fast because this episode is dropping in August. This episode is about June's music, and I'm supposed to be covering July's music in this section. So it doesn't make any sense for me to dwell too much about the music that was going to be released in July, but still I had taken notes about the music that I was more excited about, and we are going to talk a little bit about that. And the first one that I had in here was Kagaribi Fushicho, and of course Kagaribi is my favorite band among all bands in 2D music. They are from my favorite 2D music project of all time, Dear Vocalist, and my favorite voice actor of all time, Soma Saito, is in here, so everything lights up for me to be excited about their music. Kagaribi releases Fushicho, and I'm quite excited about it, and I don't know what to expect. Hopefully something really good, seeing as Ryodo and Joshua were already amazing up until now. They really kicked off the franchise or this season with so much power and quality that I'm now expecting even more from the following releases. That's basically, we are talking about Kagaribi, we are talking about Jet Red Fury, we are talking about Veronica, and we are talking about NSFW. So I'm really looking forward to see what all bands are going to do next, seeing as the quality level has risen so much in this season. And I'm looking forward to Kagaribi's Fushicho. I hope it is an amazing entry. And then I had in here in my list Kisho with Shinya Reiji. Part of the 20th anniversary celebrations for Gran Rodeo was the release of solo albums both by Iizuka and Kisho. Iizuka has already released this CD. Of course, I'm not going to cover it because Iizuka is not a voice actor, but I'm going to cover Kisho's Shinya Reiji. But I feel that I'm not going to cover the CD in the July episode, but maybe in the August episode. It will be covered a bit later than I expect because I don't have the free time to actually cover a full-length album for a specific video feature. So I'm quite excited about this because Kisho has had a solo career before with Lantis, and his music was good. I enjoyed his music a whole lot, but of course he ended up then debuting with Gran Rodeo, and Gran Rodeo have become the big band among all bands when it comes to male seiyuu fronted bands. And even outside of that, they have become one of the biggest anisong bands out there, so they are amazing. But I have a fondness for Kisho as a solo artist, and that's how I found him first. So to find him as a solo artist again in Shinya Reiji is something that excites me quite a lot. Then again, Atlantis announced that some of the composers working in this CD are international and Grammy Award winner composers, which is really saying that Kisho actually got the best of the best working with him. And of course we have people. We have Imai from Buktik. Imai is the guitarist, the legendary guitarist from Buktik, the legendary rock band fronted by the late Atsushi Sakurai, which is one of my favorite singers of all time in rock music. So we have really interesting things in here. Ron as well from Stereo Life Foundation and as well from the Dear Vocalist franchise is in here as well to help him out with one song. So this is a CD that has everything to be eclectic. I'm expecting it to be eclectic, but at the same time I do not know what to expect. Because it's been a while since Kisho was a solo artist and many things have changed for him as a performer, and in this case he hasn't written any lyrics for the CD and the songs are not composed by Iizuka. So this time around this is going to be really different. This is new territory for Kisho, which is quite exciting, and at the same time we are going to get finally, after almost 20 years, a solo CD by Kisho. And I love Kisho's vocals, so I'm quite excited about it. Although I'm not going to cover it in the July episode because unfortunately I do not have the time to cover it. I'm still quite excited to dive into it and talk about it potentially in the August episode. So do wait for that because I'm going to review it, but a bit later than I initially wanted. And lastly, I'm quite excited about Aopella 6, but yet again, as we all know, Marvelous is not making the CDs available on time on streaming platforms. So chances are I'm not going to review this CD and I'm not going to know what is going to happen in this CD. Although I love the Aopella franchise, I'm finding it so frustrating that the franchise is region locking the music to a point that we international fans do not even get the music at the same time that it is released. And it's not available on Autotoy to purchase. And it's not available in normal means to actually get access to. So it is quite frustrating. And I'm anticipating that just like it is with Aopella 5.5 or 5.5, we are not going to get Aopella 6 internationally, at least if we are not going to purchase the physical edition, we are not going to get it soon. So it is frustrating. I'm quite excited about it because it is Aopella. I love a cappella music. This is a project that is really dear to me, but it has been quite frustrating to cover it since Marvelous took over from K-Lab as their distributors and creators in some way. So it is quite frustrating. I've said this in the live stream held earlier in August, that it is frustrating to see a franchise with so much potential, so open to overseas fans, and then as soon as Marvelous took over, the franchise closed so much to the point that they are only catering to the Japanese public. They have completely abandoned the international fans that they were so focused on nurturing when K-Lab was in front of this project. So it is frustrating. I'm quite excited about Aopella 6, but I know and I'm really sure that I'm not going to get this CD at all because I'm not going to purchase the physical edition. I'm a fan of the project, but not as big of a fan to actually purchase a CD. I was going to purchase a digital version, but it's not on Autotoy. Their music is not on Autotoy at all, and on streaming platforms it's actually the same problem. It's not available on YouTube Music and it's not available on Spotify, so it's going to be weird to cover this CD if I'm still waiting to cover 5.5, which is yet to be there available, at least for me. So yeah, these are the 3 CDs I'm most looking forward to. It's Kagaribi's Fushicho, is Kisho's Shinyareiji, and of course Aopella 6. Now it's time for Ask Vanessa. This is the corner in which you can ask me anything. If you do not ask me anything, chances are this is going to turn into a Soma Saito corner, a Shuechiba corner, or a Dear Vocalist corner. So take your chances. Basically. So right now we have a comment, and this was the only comment in the June survey. It's from Therese, and Therese says, I remember making a comment under one of your videos before about Soma Saito and Makoto Furukawa, how their music represents 2 sides of the same coin to me in terms of concept, story, music style and artistry and such. I never get tired of listening to those 2. I made entire discography playlists for looping on repeat. P.S. I spent a couple of hours searching for that comment in your videos, but alas, I couldn't find it, hence discussing it here again. So Therese, I do remember your comment. It may be buried in the mist of some episode, I don't know which, but since I accept all comments, unless the comments are aggressive, since I accept all comments, your comment must be there. I do not know in which episode, but I do remember your comment because I remember writing a lengthy reply to you about how I feel the same. I've said this before, Soma Saito and Makoto Furukawa are the 2 most exciting singers or artists, let's say, among male seiyuu. Why? Because they are lyricists first and foremost. Soma Saito adds a little bit more because he's also a composer, but when we go to the brunt of what an artist is, and especially in leaving their mark, we have Makoto Furukawa actually matching Soma Saito in a way, because both are really intricate in the way they create their songs or write their lyrics. They are focused on delivering stories. They are all about conceptual albums and conceptual CDs, and they have a care to basically make sure that everything matches up and makes sense in the grand scheme of things. So this is something that I fully appreciate about both, and I do feel that they are really two sides of the same coin. It makes sense, and in some way it is really endearing to see that they both feel that they are also two sides of the same coin. When they released Makoto Furukawa released From Fairy Tail and Soma Saito released In Bloom. They released the CD in the same day, December 23rd, 2020, and they actually were quite excited about exchanging CDs. They were talking about how Makoto Furukawa actually in some way envies Soma Saito's crystal clear voice, and how Soma Saito actually envies Makoto Furukawa's sexy, booming baritone voice and vibrato. So it is good to see that they actually respect each other a whole lot, they admire each other as artists, and they actually have so much in common because both love literature and both bring literature to their music. They craft really interesting stories. A good example is really From Fairy Tail and In Bloom. Those two CDs, when they were released, I couldn't believe how good and how well I was eating in that specific day, because they managed to both release really amazing stories that really had me completely glued to my chair and thinking, well, these two CDs are so good that I cannot even rank them which is better. And I was really excited about both. But really, when you look at the quality on the vocal end, I feel that they are two of the most complete singers among male seiyuu. Of course, there are singers that people will say this one is the best, but most likely they will be the best in a specific music genre or in a specific style. And in this case, these two singers are really good in a wide variety of music genres, although they try to keep their music to a specific set of music genres. Soma Saito is more about indie rock with shoegaze in there, post-rock in there, sometimes a bit of pop in there, and Makoto Furukawa is more about jazz music, bebop, swing, and classical jazz, as well as rock, and sometimes acid jazz. So they have completely different sides of music, because Saito is not necessarily creating jazz music, although Rhapsody Inferno is a jazz song. And in some way, Makoto Furukawa has actually released music in a sort of a post-rock, emo rock style, really reminiscent of Soma Saito's music. So they have both touched each other's music in some way, and they have challenged each other to create really exciting worlds for their fans to listen and to experience. And this is something that really sets them apart from all other writers, even singers among seiyuu or lyricists, let's say, is that they are creating stories. Although we have plenty of seiyuu actually writing lyrics for their songs, they usually can't keep a narrative from start to finish in an album. They can't write a CD from start to finish, and they are not cohesive in the twists and turns in the story. And these two, Soma Saito and Makoto Furukawa, they are so crafty in the way they create their stories. Everything makes sense, everything matches, and they are really cryptic about how they deliver their stories as well. At the same time, I find it really interesting that both Soma Saito and Makoto Furukawa are really big fans of adding weird, archaic names to their songs. Soma Saito usually needs to explain why a song is in katakana or in hiragana or in kanji or in full English script, because when he chooses one and not the other, he's actually trying to do specific things. And when it comes to Makoto Furukawa, sometimes he goes and picks those weird kanji that even Japanese people stop and stare, thinking, what does this even mean? I remember Mosaic to Fairy Tail being something that people were not even understanding how to read. And Makoto Furukawa actually had to come forward in a radio show and say, this CD is actually called Mosaic to Fairy Tail, okay? That's how the kanji is read. So I find this interesting that they both have to experience that and to explain why they made certain choices when it comes to the titles of their songs, which is really weird, but at the same time it is endearing. So I feel that they are both, they are two sides of the same coin. And for me, for me, really, they are my favorite singers among male seiyuu. I do love as well Toshiki Toyonaga and Yu Uchida, but I feel that they are different style of singers in comparison with these two. These two are really complete. They are the full package as artists. Toshiki Toyonaga as well, but Toshiki Toyonaga hadn't written lyrics or composed songs in a long time until the previous release. And Yu Uchida barely writes lyrics to his songs, and he's never composed a song of his. So they are completely different styles of artists. And in this case, Soma Saito and Makoto Furukawa, they are actually in the same category. They are conceptual style of artists that know a lot about literature, and they want to bring that passion to their music, creating stories that fans want to listen and to dive into. So this is something that I do love a whole lot that you brought in as a theme, Threes, because this is something that I feel and have felt for a long time, and it is a big reason why I instantly purchase Soma Saito's music, and I instantly purchase Makoto Furukawa's music even without checking any previews, because I know that they are going to release something that has a story that I want to check, a story that is going to grip me, and usually if even the instrumentals fail a bit to impress me, I do know that when it comes to the vocals, both will impress me in completely different ways, because we are talking about Soma Saito. He's a tenor, he can do for baritone, but he's not really a baritone. And then we have Furukawa, who's really a full baritone. He can do a little bit of tenor, but he struggles a little bit, but he can do a full bass, which is amazing. And another interesting thing in here is that Makoto Furukawa has been improving a whole lot as a singer, and right now he can do high notes, he can do falsetto, he can do head voice, something, and usually, let's say, techniques that are usually more common among tenor singers than baritone singers. Although baritones can achieve those, it's not as common for baritones because they have a fuller, warmer voice. They don't reach that high in the scale, but Makoto Furukawa has been impressing a whole lot. He now can do really crazy things on the vocal end, and that has put him even closer to Soma Saito when it comes to the vocals, although Soma Saito is on a completely different level because his higher range is unbelievably high. He doesn't show it that much in his CDs, but when it comes to live shows, he can go really, really insanely high into that female range. We are talking about a range closest to Natsuki Hanae's singing, or even Adam Levine from Maroon 5. And it's actually the inspiration for Soma Saito as a singer, in a way, the style. So he actually delivers on that. So yeah, I do enjoy a whole lot that you brought me these comments. I do remember your comment, Threes. It's not deleted, I believe not, unless YouTube did something weird. But I do remember your comment because I did write almost an essay in there about how I felt the same. So yeah, thank you very much for sending me this question or comment in some way. I would love to actually dive into a bit more detail about their similarities in terms of the themes and the motifs in their music, and then the way that each approaches the storytelling, and then their technique as singers, because they are both really complete singers. And I feel that among seiyuu artists, they are the two most complete seiyuu artists. Of course, their voices might not be for everyone, because we all know that we have completely different tastes when it comes to singers, and voices that we are more warm to, and voices that really do not click with us. But when it comes to observing and saying this from an unbiased perspective, they are two of the most complete singers among male seiyuu. They are artists, complete artists, and this goes to show that sometimes you do not need to do what everyone is doing, because they are both doing things that no other seiyuu artists are doing. One is with shoegaze rock and post-rock, which are basically two music genres that do not sell well at all, and most likely many of you don't even know what are those music genres, or had never listened to those music genres prior to encountering those by Soma Saito. At the same time, we have Makoto Furukawa really embracing jazz with swing, bebop, and classic jazz in there. It's not necessarily a music genre that sells well, and prior to him, there were no seiyuu artists doing full-on jazz. So he is unique in his way. Soma Saito is also unique in his way, and I feel that they complement each other, and they are two sides of the same coin, really. So thank you very much for participating and sending these awesome comment threes. I was not expecting to talk about two of my favorite singers in this section, but then again I said if no one was saying anything, I would be talking about Soma Saito, so in some way I talked about Soma Saito. So yeah, thank you very much for participating, and of course, thank you very much to everyone for participating in this episode. Apologies because this episode dropped really late. I had to deal with 2 surgeries to remove my wisdom teeth, and it was really hard for me to actually speak clearly and without pain for 1.5 months. So right now that I'm really okay, I'm trying to catch up to the episodes that I have left to deliver to you. Thank you very much to everyone for participating, and thank you very much if you watched this episode up until the end for watching the episode until the end. It's not many of you that do this, so thank you very much. It means you are really interested in what I'm talking about and in what I'm delivering in here, as well as the music that I talked about. I hope that you have checked some, if not all, the CDs that I mentioned in this episode, and if you haven't, please go check them out. And of course, I'll see you guys soon in the next episode. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.